25 minutes to the hour of 7 o'clock. Welcome back to the Morning Brew here on CNC3. I am Natalee Legore. We go to Conrad Enill to look at what we learned over the weekend, that the National Gas Company lost well over $300 million in profit in a 6-month span. Let's talk to Mr. Conrad to find out what really happened and what they're going to do to try to, to plug that leak. Good morning to you, Mr. Enill.
Hi, good morning, Natalee. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm great.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, but well, $316.2 million lost in the first 6 months of this year. Is it the pandemic, or is there something else going on within NGC?
It has absolutely nothing to do with what is going on in NGC. It has to do with global energy. Trinidad and Tobago exists as part of the global energy business. And whatever is taking place in the global energy business will affect the National Gas Company, but not only the National Gas Company, but BP, EOG, and all the players that we have within the system. Our current position is as follows. For many, many years now, Trinidad and Tobago was selling its product to the United States. The United States, in the last decade, has found a product known as shale. Shale is now a competitor. As a result of them putting serious resources into that, we now have a situation where the United States is an exporter, and therefore the market globally has changed. As a consequence of that, many, many countries, including Trinidad and Tobago, has been affected by that change in the global energy supply. What we are managing today is that issue, and we are managing it in a time when, as depressed as it was, we found ourselves with COVID-19, which simply created a little bit more stress for us in terms of how we manage these issues. That's the NGC story. That's the energy story in a nutshell. The specifics we could talk to, but that's the story.
Yeah, but if that's the story, and we recognize that right across the globe, energy prices have been affected, as you said, especially with U.S. Now being an exporter, what is it that Trinidad and Tobago plans to do to treat with the situation? Because if U.S. is an exporter, obviously you need other markets.
Yeah. Of course, the Trinidad and Tobago system is globally integrated, so we put product all around the world. Therefore, despite that, we are able to get results by putting our product in other jurisdictions. So the results that you will see is as a result of efforts going into other markets outside of the United States. Our products are very small compared to what is required. So we do have spaces in which the product goes. So let me answer your question this way. If you look at the demand for natural gas between now and 2050, the International Energy Agency suggests that there will be little or no change in the demand for gas. But in the interim, companies will be investing a lot in renewables, and therefore you have some time before the whole question of renewables become an issue. Natural gas is used for power and power generation, and as long as you continue to have winters and summers and people require manufacturing plants, the Trinidad and Tobago energy market is well positioned to make some contribution. What is hitting the NGC right now is the prices of ammonia and methanol, which has come down by, in some instances, year on year by 40%. We expect that this will continue for another 12 to 18 months. So we see the conditions that we are now faced with as temporary in the first instance. And we see that what is required at this point in time is for us to be able to hold our position, because this will change as soon as the prices change. And we are already seeing that the prices are starting to trend upward. We expect that by quarter next year, it will be a little bit higher than it is now, which is going to give us a little bit more revenue, because the issue now is revenue. Once we get that additional revenue, we will be back in the position that we were in, which means that we can operate a business profitably.
Right, but well, forgive my ignorance, Mr. Enill, because I'm thinking if you have a business and prices are depressed, that you'd want to do something in the meantime to ensure that you don't suffer these kind of losses. But I haven't heard from you so far what NGC is doing to try to ensure that even if ammonia and methanol prices are down, that the company can still find ways to maintain its profits.
Well, you know, it's an interesting question, because one of the things that the company can do is shut down electricity for the whole country. Is that productive? It is not. So even while the situation is as it is, the issue is not whether the company is productive or profitable. The issue is whether the company continues to make its contribution to the stability of the energy sector. That is to say, whether in these difficult times, the country continues to get a supply of power for electricity, and the country continues to have an energy sector that can operate over the short to medium term. It is not simply a matter of profit. It is a matter of stability of the energy system, the role that the NGC plays. The cost of doing that at this point in time is $300 million. We understand that. There are things that we're doing in the company as well. There are issues around efficiencies, there are issues around new competencies, there are issues around gaps. We do have a plan in terms of how we would move forward. There are 5 components that we are looking at. But we are here today because there are decisions that we made in the past that we have to deal with today. So we're not unduly concerned at the issue at this point in time. What we are more concerned about is making sure that at the end of this fall, we do have a functioning, stable energy system of which we are a part.
Right, and you think that's the bottom line, not necessarily the profit. But if, let's look at the other side of the coin. If these methanol and ammonia prices don't go back up, you say it's trending upward for now. But if this is sustained past the 12 to 18 months that you're looking at, what's going to be happening with NGC? Will we be able to still have that discussion about the stability of the energy sector?
Well, if that happens, it's not going to be a discussion about NGC, it's going to be a discussion about energy per se. And then it raises the bigger question about the global market, and that the conditions for that does not exist. Remember that energy provides a product that the world needs. The issue now is price. And the issue right now is price insofar as supply and demand is concerned. Those matters are being dealt with. And once they are dealt with, the supply-demand imbalance, which is what we are seeing, and the fact that COVID has reduced it, that is not going to continue indefinitely. We're already seeing signs that those conditions are changing. And it is those changed conditions that change our results, and we're seeing that.
Right, so even though the pandemic is there and it made things a little bit worse, really, realistically, not really the issue that we're looking at here that caused this $316 million loss. But past...
No, it's revenue. It's really revenue.
It's the prices. It's a global market and the prices.
In 6 months, we've lost $1.7 billion in revenue.
Right.
And that has impacted our margins, and that has impacted the conditions.
But let us talk about gas production in Trinidad and Tobago. Does that have anything to do with what we're experiencing here?
Not at this time. At this point in time, it is simply a matter of price of product and the ability of companies not to make economic return in this construct. And during this period of time, what they decided to do is to try and get their plants more efficient. So companies, for example, that would have had to do maintenance for their plants have decided to do it earlier rather than later. And in some instances, companies have decided to take a holiday for a short period of time. You would recall that a couple of months ago, the price of oil, for example, in the US market was negative.
Yeah.
That's not a condition. That's not a condition that is normal. And that's not a condition that we expect will take place. But if your price is negative and you have a product, it doesn't matter what you do, you are going to make losses of that. Those are some of the conditions we find ourselves in right now.
Right, but I'm still trying to figure, you think the difference between how many cubic feet of gas that Trinidad and Tobago produces daily wouldn't make a difference to the bottom line in terms of the numbers?
There are two issues. There's an issue of volume and there's an issue of price. We maintain the volume that at levels that are required for the estate, and we continue to provide those. That's the issue. In the future, the exploration program that the companies have signed on to and continue to sign on to will provide us with the gas that is required. The gas goes into two places, either the petrochemical sector or LNG. Both of those are contributors to the revenue of the country. So gas is a function of those two areas, and we have sufficient gas at this point in time to meet those demands, and we are supplying it on the basis of what is required.
Something I've been curious about, and I don't know if there's even any correlation, but you'll guide me as to whether or not the LNG sector will be affected by the selling of the NP gas stations.
The LNG sector, no, but LNG as a product is also suffering reduced prices globally. So it's not only the petrochemical sector, it's also the LNG. In terms of the selling of the NP product, basically the NP gas stations provide gas for motor vehicles. And that is supplied right now through, it used to be through the petroleum refineries, now through one of the companies that was set up for that. So,
Aria, probably.
Yeah, so that is not going to impact too much except for prices to the consumer.
All right, well, if you say the volume is not an issue at this time, I'm surprised by that. I thought that the volume, especially when we've been hearing that even gas volumes in Trinidad and Tobago have kind of gone down, I thought that would have affected, you know, this number that I'm seeing here. But if you say it's just global prices, then I'll go with that.
No. The way the system works is that we have long-term contracts with our suppliers. And what we do is back-to-back. So we make sure that there is a supply so that we can actually go into a contract, because it's a 20-year contract. So we manage that quite well. We've also changed the mix a little bit so that if there's a shortfall anywhere, we can pull some resources to make sure that the system continues to operate sustainability so there's no loss in production. We used to have a challenge some time ago where there were disruptions in the system. We fixed that through technology and through improvements in our processes. And we think that going forward, what we're trying to do is to sustain the sector and make sure that the sector, despite these challenges, has the best opportunity to survive.
All right, Mr. Enill, thank you so much for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you, Natalee, for asking me.
You're most welcome. Conrad Enill, they're the chairman of the National Gas Company, speaking to us. And he says it's just the global market and what prices are like, and that's what is responsible for that $1.7 billion loss in revenue over the period of time, some months, but a $316 million loss to profits. So he says prices are already going back up, so they don't expect that this is something that's going to be sustained in the long term. The next 12 to 18 months, they should be back on good footing. We take a break and we'll be back with you.